What's up, summoners? King Blair here. Today we're going to be talking about the current banner hero Basar and whether or not you should pull for him. If you liked the video though, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server, link down in the description. Without further ado, let's get right into it. If you guys might not have noticed, I did change some of the settings on my mic, so let me know if this sounds a lot more crisp and a lot better. So hopefully the audio quality is a lot better. I know that's something that you guys always like to complain and harp on me about, but yeah, hopefully it's a lot better, and going forward this is something you guys enjoy hearing more rather than the crackly old sounds of my fan trying to take off. So with that, let's get right into it. As always, I like to talk first about a summary of what's coming next, so you guys know and are ready for when those new heroes are going to be coming, so you don't just use your bookmarks and are not sure, right? And we usually start with a summary of where we are as well as a summary of the unit. So first, as you guys know, the Epic 7 collab with 3-0 is coming. Now, I know a lot of you guys may not like the collab. I personally have gotten over the fact that it took them this long to announce it, and I'm actually pretty hype about it, but you may not like it. However, even if you don't like it, just know that limited units are very game breaking, right? They almost always have made an impact in the meta, so you want to make sure you're able to pull for them. Since this is a collab as well, there's a very good chance that we are going to be getting 2 to 3 potential new units, right? So we are going to have a lot of bookmarks. The other thing is that while it has been confirmed that we're going to get a new summer hero, which is most likely going to be Summer Iceria. Now this, they haven't announced anything on her, and we don't know when she's going to come out. Most likely the collab will come before Summer Iceria comes, but she is supposed to be coming this year. So if she does come, you also will want to have bookmarks for her. So at least enough for 2 pities, which is a lot, right? So with that, how is Basar, right? So Basar is not a limited hero, right? Unlike the collab heroes. But he is arguably one of the best PvP units. If you're someone that is trying to get into competitive PvP, Basar is one of the best units you can have. He breaks apart a lot of different tanks teams. He's incredible for Arena. I think I used him in like almost every other match in Arena. I'm using Basar because of how strong he actually is. And in RTA, I haven't used him as much recently, but he's always been in and out of metas. So he's an incredibly strong unit. Normally, if we didn't have 2 potential collabs and like limited units right around the corner, I would have told you, oh, it's a no-brainer, pull for Basar. He's incredible for PvP. But I have to accept the fact that not everyone has all the resources in the world, right? Including myself. I don't even have that many resources ready for these limited heroes. If you're someone that is waiting on limited resources, you can take the gamble on trying to pull for Basar, although I would recommend to at least wait until next week before the update, because they will tell us how the units will look, and then you can make a better decision. Basar is going to be around forever. He will likely get another rerun before the limited units get a rerun, right? Because limited units only get a rerun once every year, if not more. So yes, Basar is incredible. If you pull for him, you will not regret it. He is amazing, but just know that you may be low on resources for those next things. As far as to what he does, he's incredible for PvP. He just strips the opponent's buffs. The least RNG unit that can do that, and it's just incredibly amazing unit. I really would encourage y'all to pull, but at the same time you gotta save those bookmarks, right? Especially if you're free to play. If you're not free to play, I would recommend pulling for him, right? He's an incredibly strong unit, even though Holiday Youthine is becoming more and more popular as the days go on. So with that, let's take a look at his kit. I know he's an oldie, but let's take a look at him, right? So he is a very, very good unit. He's one of those units that like is almost always meta. For as long as I can remember, he has been a part of the meta, right? So as far as stats, nothing crazy, right? He has very high attack, which is really weird because it doesn't do much for him. His HP is a little bit on the low side. His speed is kind of like the baseline for average speed. Usually people compare speeds to Basar. That is usually what people like to compare speeds to, because his speed is so well known, because his S3 is so crushing a lot of the times. The defense is actually very high, which allows him to be decently tanky. I mean, it's normal mage stats, and then you also see the effectiveness at 18% effectiveness, which again, it's pretty nice, right? He kind of doesn't need it, but needs it at the same time, depending on using him. And if you do awaken him, you do get effectiveness on this kill. So that part, again, you can get more effectiveness, which makes sense a little bit, but at the same time, not as much, because he's a mage, and we'll talk about why in a second. So as far as skills, the S1 is going to be very, very interesting. It's honestly pretty unique in what it does. Essentially, it transfers the debuffs that he has, one debuff from the caster to the enemy, and inflicts a random debuff, right? So if you do this S1 and you have a debuff, you will be applying a different debuff. Now, the only thing about this is that if you have no debuffs on you, you are not applying or transferring a debuff, right? It requires you to transfer to be able to get that debuff on the other side, right? So it's kind of one of those things that's like, it's nice when it happens, but you don't actively go for it. It makes putting debuffs on Basar a little bit scary because he can transfer it over back to you. So if something like an F10A, he could transfer back the unable to be buffed and then give you another debuff on top of that. So it can be pretty annoying. And it's pretty unique, and you have a 75% chance to actually do this. It's not a bad S1, right? It does decent damage as well because he has such high base attack. Then we have his S2. The S2 is an AoE attack that decreases attack and applies glancing hit chance. Really crushing when it does land, right? It doesn't have it has a 75% chance. Again, a lot of these skills are going to be around 75% chance, but this skill is AoE and a 75% chance each. So you're most likely than not going to be landing at least one of these, if not both of them. But attack, drown, and glancing hit AoE is really annoying. It is really good, especially for hitting things like Stene that tend to hide in the backline, or even things like Landy. If they have guiding light, you can use this skill and essentially mess up the Landy. And Basar does have a really good matchup against Landy. Then we get to the S3, which is the reason that this unit is known, which is going to be his best skill, right? It's an AoE attack that strips all buffs and applies unable to be buffed, right? For 2 turns. And on top of all that, reduces combat arenas by 30%. And on top of that, you can soul burn it to ignore effect resistance. Now, why is the ignore FRS so critical? Well, as we all know, 15% in this game sucks, right? No one likes to get 15%ed. So having a skill that you're guaranteed to not only strip, push back, and unable to be buffed, that's a lot, right? That is a lot. And it's often enough to win you the fight right off the bat. And the thing about it, since he's a mage, he can carry book on his own. This is why I mentioned at the beginning, he doesn't particularly need effectiveness. If you do get effectiveness on him, it's not bad because it lets you do a no soul burn Basar, or if you want to use crown Basar, that is another option that you do have, giving Basar abyssal crown, and then you have a chance to strip, stun, and unable to be buffed, although you won't have the souls to be able to get the guaranteed. So that's why I personally don't do it, and why most players do use book on Basar. But if you're playing him in a tankier team and you're playing him slow, you can definitely give him abyssal crown. And because he has AoE skill here every 3 turns, AoE skill here every 4 turns, it can be pretty annoying on crown, and it's really good on defense if you do have a really good Basar, right? So all in all, how would you build him? Fast and tanky, right? That's pretty much all he needs, is to be fast, to be able to outspeed the opponent and set up for the rest of your team, and tanky so speed contesters can't one-shot him like a Sid. And he does usually need immunity unless you have that fast of a Basar, but usually having immunity on him is very helpful. As we mentioned, effectiveness is not that important on him. My Basar is only like at 50 effectiveness, but is a lot more tankier, and he lasts quite a long time, and people tend to focus down Basar because of how annoying this S2 can be, as well as if potentially getting another S3 and stripping buffs. He is an incredible counter to things like Fallen Cecilia, to things like Landy, because you take her out of Guiding Light and make it so she can't get the speed buff for the whole team. She counters things like Diane, even things like General Purgus. It's even just because you push 30%, General Purgus only pushes 18%. So there is a lot that he can do. People are learning how to play around him more and more. Holiday Euphine is still a counter towards him. People will sometimes make Chloe still does really well. So that's why he's typically more of an aggressive unit, and usually used in aggro or cleave teams, or in a more aggressive Bruiser draft with General Purgus, where you can push back and set up. So as far as to where I personally use him, and I can show you the one I have. I use him, if there's PvP, I'm using Basar, right? I use him for Arena. I use him for Guild Wars all the time for Guild Wars. Like, all the time for Guild Wars. He destroys those FC, CT, certain defense, as I've shown before. And in RTA, he's just usually a force ban for the opponent if you do pick him late or even early, right? It forces a certain draft situation. And then I'll have the craziest Basar out there. He is an immunity and he's distantly tanky, right? That's the two things that you want to look for. And again, as I mentioned, he doesn't have that much effectiveness. There was some substats that I didn't mind that he got some, but for the most part, you don't really need it. As far as Mola Gorang, it is kind of nice if you have a higher Mola Basar, because he does a surprising amount of damage. You have to realize his base attack is incredibly high, right? So he will do decent poke damage, and it can win or lose you fights. So I do recommend having some Molagora on his S3 and S2, since you may be using it more than you think, right? So that is going to be it for Basar. Now, it's kind of a dead week, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And if you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments. But that's all I got for you guys today, and I will see you next time. Peace.